Hey everyone, Georgia here with Ukraine Matters. I want to start by saying thank you to you and everyone else that pointed to me the correct name of the Ukrainian hero that got killed. I made a follow-up video explaining the situation, so please follow it in the link if you want to see it. For once, I'm going to start discussing the topic of the video right away, which is that Russian economy is in a complete free fall. It is so crazy because we had the data for January when it was said that Russia in the month of January basically dipped into 40% of their budget deficit, which was pretty terrible, like to put it right away. But everyone was expecting that. Well, not everyone, but a lot of analysts that I was listening, like economics analysts, they are saying that, okay, yeah, that's January, but January is like a start of the year, they're planning stuff like that. There might be like this, but it's going to even out, and then Russia is going to kind of more or less even it out as it go along. However, now the February is gone and things are not looking that great. So Russia is right now, after February's data, the open data that Russia is publishing is 88% into their budget deficit. To put it in perspective, you said that you can only spend like so much, and in 2 of 12 months, you spend 88% of that much. That says that you're pretty much in trouble. This is obviously awful for Russia, and it is obviously excellent for us. Everyone who was saying that the sanctions don't work, that everything that Russia is being pressured on don't work, they lied to you. That's not even an understatement. Russian economy is struggling impressively. I'm not going to do a whole segment about the Russian economy. We'll maybe have a discussion on one of our streams. But what you need to know that it's not only the budget deficit, it's also the non-resource based income that Russian economy is getting is also dropping. So any kind of entrepreneurial activity is dropping in Russia. People are getting essentially into unemployment. A lot of population of Russia that have credits, there is a huge percentage of the credit level on population. There is a huge segment of population that has over 80% of their credits rating. So basically, not rating, but the credit level. So of all the 100% of income that a person has, he needs to spend 80% in to cover the payments for credits. To put it in perspective, that's not sustainable. If you ever talk with some of the Eastern European person, ask them about something that is called microcredits or like a fast credits. It's not as popular in the West, so maybe you don't know it, but maybe a person can explain to you what it is, or maybe even like if you're a person from the Eastern Europe, explain it in comments what it is to the people so they can read it. But basically, it's a way to get a lot of money fast with little to no backup, just basically on good word, and with incredible percent rate. So like you get money fast, but also you pay a lot. And that is actually has been a lot of the things that Russia has been using because they don't have a good practice on how to use this borrowed money well. So they would borrow money just to cover their expenses without investing it anywhere, which is really bad investment practice or borrowing practice, to be honest. So, and about a third of all of those credits are now being defaulted upon, which is incredibly bad because it's a huge segment of the Russian private economy for private persons. But this is going even worse because one of the biggest things that Russian bank was doing for a long time is controlling inflation. Russian bank was saying, okay, we're going to control inflation, we're going to keep the levels pretty low, whatnot. And now they are saying, okay, well, we can't, because not only that the prices will be rising because Russian government wants to take out the money from some of the business. They want to like charge essentially big business for some money, and big business is not stupid. They're just going to raise prices, so that's just going to increase inflation. Moreover, then what's going to happen is that the expectations for increased inflation are rising. And if you have some understanding of the economic theory, you know that in macroeconomics, expectations for inflation is actually, it's a very poorly controlled mechanism, but it's a mechanism that actually gets calculated into the inflation level. If people expect prices to rise, actually plays a huge role on the fact if prices rise actually, which is not something that a lot of people truly understand just how big of an impact it is. Expectations is actually quite a big thing in economics. That's why something like fake it till you make it in the economics might actually work, because that's how macroeconomics work. Because each individual person can be very, very smart. Each individual person can be very, very robust and thinking about certain things. However, when we're talking about crowd behavior, that changes a lot. So this obviously isn't good, because Russia comes now to essentially a fork in the road. Obviously, this bad economic situation is happening only for one reason. It's because Russia wants to expand their military spending significantly. And that is understandable, because Putin needs to finance the war, because the war is not going anywhere near. Because what the war that they are waging essentially is the war that maybe a Soviet Union or some kind of superpower could have waged like this, with such a scale, expenditure of resources, troops, whatever. But Russia is not the Soviet Union. Economy of Russia is tiny compared to what economy of Soviet Union was. Moreover, the sanctions are now strangling it even more. So for them, they cannot sustain this. It's completely unsustainable. So now they're going to be basically coming saying, okay, war or economy? Like, do we save the country, or do we produce war? And I can guarantee you it's going to be the war. So what's going to happen, basically saying, okay, we cannot give money to the economy, we're going to give it to the war. Not giving money to economy means one thing, that Russia will start freezing payments to any kind of government worker, so any government bureaucrat. All of the non-military production in Russia will start going down, and the economy will just continue sloping. Will that mean that Russia is going to stop fighting? No, hell no. They're going to funnel a lot of the money that they're having into the military. The problem is, military does not produce value for long term. Like, it's not an investment. Like, whatever you invest in military, that's it. It's a dead end. That's an end product, essentially. And that means that Russia is not only just removing whatever economy it has now, it's also removing the economy for the future, which means that after this war, threat of Russia is like every continuing month of this war is just reducing and reducing and reducing influence that Russia will have later on the conflict. So that is one thing. And then we're talking about the economy and military, for example, spending. Like, they are not spending that money to produce Armata tanks or like a sea of T-90s or like more modern missiles or whatnot. Like, the fact that I'm pretty sure you've seen this picture where Russia has this MTLB. It's like a tractor, essentially. Think about it this way, like a tractor that is also a little bit of a troop carrier. And so they put this tower with an anti-air gun on top of it. Now, the important part here to know, like, in the world, we've seen all the different mutations and like sweatshop works on different weapons. And important thing to know that that weapon is coming out of factory. That is not a sweatshop. It's literally they're coming into factory and they're building this. The problem, it means that Russia is really struggling for equipment. They are really scraping the barrel. This is also supplemented with the fact that we're hearing that it's going to be T-62s mostly that are now being produced by the Russian factories. Also, produced is a very much extension of it. They're just trying to maybe come in, check if it still works, maybe slap some reactive armor that they still have in storage and be done with it. Or use like some kind of thermal sight from like 60s. It's kind of a joke. It's a joke. Russian military is struggling. Again, a gun is a gun. A tank is a tank, despite it's old, obviously, but it's still a tank. And this brings me to the next point, that I don't understand, why are we still discussing support for Ukraine? Like, for example, airplanes and so on. We need to understand, this is especially in the light of the recent developments, that some journalists reported that apparently Russia has captured some javelins, some stingers from Ukrainians and sent it to Iran, and now Iran is gonna is gonna re-engineer, like reverse engineer these tools, and then they're gonna defeat everyone else. Yeah, basically something like this. Yeah, it's a bullshit propaganda. The point is, F-16s, Leopard 2 tanks, the fucking javelins, Stingers, it's all ancient shit. It's all like from what, 1990s. It's been like 30 years. No one is asking Ukraine to be supplied with, like high-tech weaponry. Ukraine is not fighting like a high-tech modern warfare where they need like lasers or like, something like integrated satellite systems, whatnot. It's not there. Like all of these weapons, like especially saying, oh my God, they got their hands on Stinger and they're gonna reverse engineer Stinger. It's like, bitch, Stinger is an old piece of garbage. Like it's working only because Russia is flying the same age garbage planes that they did before. Though, never mind. I'm not gonna bother too much with it. But the point is that Russian economy and weapons producers are not having it that good as well. Going into some other news that I wanted to cover and so on, Ukraine has finally made a decree saying that it will force evac children from the near combat line. So before it was mandatory evacuation, but people could still essentially say no. While it was mandatory, it's not forceful, right? So they say like you must evacuate, but they cannot force it. Now for the children, I believe it's under the age of 16. Now the children will be forcefully evacuated from the near front line, and children will need to be evacuated with at least one of their parents or relatives. That's basically Ukraine agreed on it. It was accepted into law, and I think it's good because we need to stop Russia capturing children. This is not a way to build Ukraine's future. So I'm really happy that this was accepted because people can be like, they can wait for Russia to come. They can sabotage Ukrainian work. They can just, don't care or whatnot. I don't know what it is, but children, Ukraine must save. So additionally, we've heard that a couple of pilots, talking about the F-16s, a couple of pilots made it to US to start training on MiGs, which is great. It's obviously still not a full training course. It's more US trying to assess how long would a Ukrainian pilot essentially take to retrain. And also taking a point that we discussed during some of the streams, for example, I believe it was Denis Davidov that set an example that one of his buddies had a experience as an airline pilot, and yet he was drafted into infantry. To which my answer said was that maybe Ukraine just doesn't need pilots, but infantry is really, really in demand. So I followed up a little bit on this, and I found out that in Ukraine they have about 3 times the staff they need on all airplanes. So they have like literally over 3 people standing in line for every single airplane right now. So Ukraine is not struggling for pilots; they're struggling for material. So right now it just makes sense that Ukraine uses people for what they can. That's is exactly what I was expecting. Additionally, European Union has approved additional 2 billion euros to support production and purchase of ammunition for Ukraine, which is really, really good. And finally, I want to close out by 2 countries that there is some hope for. The first one being Georgia. I want to congratulate my Georgian viewers, my Georgian friends, saying that we hear that the leading government party is pulling back. They want to try to pull back from the dictatorship law that they wanted to implement. And I want to congratulate. And I want you to take this as a W, as a victory for yourself. But don't take this as a stop, because they didn't succeed this now. You still have your democracy in place. You still can vote them out. And please do. But I'm really, really thankful that you didn't allow this to happen to your country, and you still keep a door open to maybe one day join the European Union family. We would love to have you in. At least me as European, I say it from my personal perspective. And then secondly, we have a hope for Turkey. Turkey, let's put it this way. I know some people like to be called Turkey. So there is still now hope for Turkey. This is because Erdogan, he's a dictator. That is very true. However, they still don't have the ultimate power of vote. They still have the voting system. Now, I've definitely known that the voting system is a little bit rigged, but as far as I'm aware, as at least like maybe if you're from Turkey, write this in comments. I've heard that there is still chance for people to actually come vote, and actually if there's enough vote, then Erdogan might actually lose. But I don't know how far the situation devolved, because for dictators it takes just a little bit of a while to reduce all of the democracy into nothing. We saw that happening in Georgia when first they started introducing some light laws, and then it's going to become tougher and tougher and tougher and tougher. And then we have one leader, one vision, and one future for all. Or in case of Russia, no future at all. Thank you so much for watching this talking video. I love you all, guys. Huge thanks to everyone that is supporting this channel on Patreon or membership. Please join, support me, or even better, go into the first comment and support Ukraine directly. Support the armed forces of Ukraine. Trust in armed forces of Ukraine. Slava Ukraini, and I'll see you guys next time.